Welcome back to New Persuasive Words. I'm Scott Jones.
And I'm Bill Bohr.
Bill, we got
It's
the countdown to start the show, which
yeah,
our listeners, viewers can't see. But
we
I
enjoy it.
quite frankly love it. I
I
find
enjoy
it,
it too. I enjoy it
yeah,
too.
it's
Yeah,
very,
yeah. It's a
it's
it's
fun.
a throwback to the space program. I like that. Yeah,
Houston, we have a problem. We have many problems
we have
right now in
many
this country,
problems.
buddy.
Many problems. By the way, yeah. I wonder if like 800 National Guards will be more successful in him taking over the Capitol militarily than his ragamuffin band there that failed. He likes.
That is the most generous use of the term ragamuffin band. I think a ragamuffin band. I don't think of January 6th,
I
but
don't know. You had your Shaman, you had your Proud Boys, you had your undercover MAGA people creating problems. Yeah, that was all good. Just a good, part of it. What's helped turn around this country. I really think, you know, this ability to totally disregard the law. I think has us right on the right track. So I think that.
well, Bill, the great Richard Nixon said, our last, what I always say, our last liberal president. The EPA, affirmative
Right.
act, wanted to end local funding in school. I mean, Richard Nixon today looks pretty great. But Nixon famously said it's not illegal if the president does it.
There we go.
So
Well, we have a whole new. That's the I think he has that on his pajamas. Yeah. But at any rate, so it's been a while. I've been all over the place since we
you've been
last.
everywhere, Bill. You've been crossing.
I
You've been
was in.
again disregarding Scott's advice and just running around,
All right.
engaging in activity.
I was at the Great First Presbyterian Church of Huntington, West Virginia. Pre-installation of my former student, my colleague, and now friend, Mark Boyd. Wish the Boyds the best in Huntington. It's interesting. There was a lovely Celtic cross there that it used to be when the Southern Presbyterian Church would have their general assemblies at churches. So sometime in the 60s, I think, there was a general assembly at First Presbyterian Church, Huntington, West Virginia.
Wow, that is. I mean, that is
Just up the street from Marshall University, which interesting. And then we took two of the grandkids to Niagara Falls, which was which was
Hey,
at one point I was kind of doing banter with the one waitress. I feel like I have to apologize to everybody up here. She goes, "You don't have to apologize, honey. There's only one of you we don't like."
well,
So
there you go.
there we go. So Canada. So thank you. Yeah, Canada.
I bought
I want to
scotch.
get a Canada flag here.
I bought scotch in a liquor store years ago in Canada, and my buddy who's Canadian said to the cashier as I was paying for the scotch, he said, "Hey, my buddy here is American," and the cashier said, "Hey, you want some healthcare with that?" Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's always a nice thing. Yeah, and
yeah.
so
But
the ice,
the Canadian side of Niagara Falls is the way to go. It's
the Canadian side of many things.
many things is the
That's
way
the
to
way
go.
to go. Not the tariffs, but
But well, they can do
Bill, the
without it.
coffers are piling up. They said the money's piling up in the coffers
So we
with
know where
these.
that money's going to go. Is it going to reduce the deficit?
I don't know. It's gonna make this ballroom. It's gonna go to the ballroom.
That's right. Let's go. Well, it's going to pay for 800 National Guard in Washington D.C. and our new sending military people to fight cartels. That,
That might be the most rational thing Trump has done so far is make the bigger ballroom. I'm serious. Look, I mean, if you're having big events,
right.
the White House ballroom is not that big, and if you're having a
Yeah.
state dinner or something, you want sometimes a more expansive guest list. These are ways you network in the political world and grant favors
Well,
and have people are the prominence, and maybe you need a bigger ballroom.
I've been in the White House. Matter of fact, Barbara Bush gave my youth group a tour back in the day. She had been a member of First Presbyterian Church Midland, but I did not see the ballroom. So, have you been to the ballroom? At the
No,
White House? No. Well,
no, I love a nice ballroom though.
a couple of things we do. A couple of housekeeping things. First of all, we coined a new phrase earlier today.
Yes,
We weren't
yes, you
recording,
did, you
and
did, you did. I like this.
all right. So it is comfortably annoying. Was that what I
No, you
said?
said familiar annoyance.
Familiar annoyance,
We're
right?
talking about someone, a friend of ours, who's
Who you
yeah.
you call him a friend, but you complain about him every time you mention his name to me.
This person is someone
It,
we've interacted with online a lot, and
probably not a friend of the show anymore. At one
not a
point, was
friend
a
of the
friend.
show. Well, at one point,
I think he was a friend of the show.
was a friend of the show, but this is somebody that I was asking you what this person comments on many occurrences in church and state and the evangelical world and things. And there's a theologian. I said, "What is it? Why do I even look at this?" And you said, "Well, he's a familiar annoyance." And I thought, Bill, that's such an elegant phrase that really captured what draws me in. It's the familiar annoyance.
Right. There's something
Yeah, it was
comforting
beautiful.
about being, annoyed every time you
You're
read
like
something.
Hemingway, Bill, over there, just cranking out phrases. I love it.
That's right. Just reflecting up here. And here's something I didn't even talk to you about this, but in view of the tragedies in the world and the crisis in our country, I thought it'd be good to do some straight up escapism. So I've started a clergy a fantasy football league, and
Oh boy.
there we go. So, but we have a few more spots. So far, we have the evangelicals are underrepresented, but we
Well,
have
in Vermont, I would think.
couple well, they're just not from the couple rabbis. There's a strong Episcopal and Reformed contingency. So we could, if there's a neo Anabaptist out there.
How many of those people that claim to be Presbyterian or something are really Reformed, though?
Well, I'd say the least Reformed of the people in the Reformed camp would be me.
That would be you, yeah.
But you do that. Now, I think these two guys are pretty Reformed, the other two Reformed people. So, but anyway, there's room. There's room for a couple more. And so
email us and I'll get you an invite into the
email us. How do people email us, by the way?
We do. I send them to you. I mean, you can.
Oh, that's right. You
forward through the website. Right through the website, you can go in.
That's right.
npw.fireside.fm, and there's a contact button, and you can send us a missive, and we will get it.
That's right. Well, usually the only emails you forward me are people who say
don't like
me.
And think you run the Democratic Party.
I occasionally, there was that one time you sent me a nice one, but usually, now the other thing about you is that he'll send me, somebody said something, less than flattering about me, and you wish you envy that.
I love it. I wish I had haters. I like it. I think it's fun.
You keep working on it.
I try.
You try. By the way, you look great.
I try.
You are taking very good care of yourself.
Hey, we're getting the weight down. We're doing some things. We're a lot of exercise, a lot of jump roping, a lot of yoga, a lot of dumbbells.
Dumbbells, yeah.
Pressing weight, Bill.
Pressing weight.
I watch a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger these days. I listen to his podcast. Very inspiring.
Well, I'm older than you, but I do weigh. I don't do. I do those. What do they call them with the air compression? Those weight machines,
like the Nautilus.
Well, it's kind of Nautilus, but you to get the weight increase. You have to pump.
Oh
air. Yeah. I like that. That's and so I do some do gentle weights, but
it's resistance training. They say as you age is the number one thing you can do. Keeping muscle mass on. Yeah, I just found that like 80% of Americans. I was watching some reel on some podcast thing that comes across my feed on Instagram or something, and they were saying they had this fitness person on. She was saying that like 80% of Americans fail both the movement and the strength requirements for normal health, and basically are sedentary. 80%.
Wow.
So I was just thinking, you should just either. I mean, I think for this country, like put GLP-1 as part of everyone's medical coverage for free, or pay everybody to work out. That's my other thought. Like give Fitbits out or something, and then incentivize people.
Incentivized working out.
Yeah, because
Well,
it's
you kind of don't you? Well, insurance companies at one point used to do that, right?
yeah.
Yeah, but people, I think
RFK maybe would. RFK might be for that.
right. I saw where the president fitness tests are coming back. Is Donald Trump going to take one, or is he going to lead the way out there? Setups? I don't know. That'd be interesting.
And we went from Bush, of course, had Arnold Schwarzenegger as the director of the President's Council of Physical Fitness, and now I think Trump has Lawrence Taylor. And all this, it's stuff you couldn't write. I mean, it's
Could not
stuff that
write.
you just it writes itself.
Right?
I don't know how you would. I just someday I don't know what to say. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of, it's kind of, well, I guess the fact that Lawrence Taylor is still alive, that's something.
It is.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
hey.
there could be fitness for the abused.
I think
body.
RFK is in better shape than Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, from the neck down. Well, I don't know. From the neck up, they're probably about the same.
Not the same, but for the neck down.
No,
RFK is amazing, man.
yeah,
That guy's
man.
amazing.
He is. He is amazing. He's something. That's for sure.
I'm sure he's on steroids.
Oh,
Or something.
something. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, this is so much is going on in the world. So
Right.
so much is happening.
Yeah. By the way, I think that we normalize the killing of journalists, and we just kind of take it. We just take it in stride anymore.
It's hard to know what to pay attention to. That's
a hard thing. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is very difficult to know what to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our topic, Bill.
Yes.
Brings us to stoicism.
Excellent segue there, comrade. Excellent.
This is Bill. Let me ask you this: what happens when Marcus Aurelius meets Jesus in a coffee shop? Do you know?
I do not know.
One says, "Let them be." The other says, "Love them anyway." And here we're going to put stoic detachment and Christian compassion in the same room in this conversation. See if they can get along without any tables being flipped or
right. Well, it makes sense to me that it's made a comeback. I mean, it's certainly I read a fascinating book. I can't remember the title of it. That came out maybe 5 or 6 years ago about how the founding fathers were educated. Remember that book? And because a lot of them, there were a lot of Scottish professors that were at William and Mary and at Princeton, and two of the places where a lot of them were educated. And one of the things was they got more Latin. They read more Latin fathers than they did, or not fathers, but they read more Latin writers than they did the Greek. And so he really thought that's part of why we have a republic and not a democracy. But he really thought that that had a really strong influence on Jefferson and Madison. And it's interesting too that how much Seneca was read, right? Seneca was a very important part. So this kind of what was the model of virtue of the founding fathers, and I think you'll find, some recast stoicism there, and it makes sense to me that we kind of are in this neo-pagan world, and so people who are trying to find an ethical way in a neo-pagan world, you're hard pressed to find better ethicists than you were the Stoics in terms of the ancients.
We're making neo-paganism great again. Okay, I love the neo-pagans. Fantastic. It sounds a little gay, though. I think pagan. Right. I think feathers and flowers, like almost like a little mummer's gay. Okay.
Well, he is a high priestess. He's a high priest of it. Either way. But so I think it makes sense to me that people are looking for a couple of different reasons. Some good, some maybe not so good.
Well, I'll tell you, I was thinking about this because I was listening to the Pivot podcast with Kara Swisher, and the normal co-host is Scott Galloway. Great podcast, very interesting on news and business and politics. I mean, they're two very smart people, and Scott Galloway is gone for the month of August and his vacationing, his $1 billion vacation lifestyle. And by the way, guy's very good on taxes and wealth distribution and theories and all this stuff. He's a very interesting guy. He's self-made kind of, although he would deny that he's fully self-made. But I mean, he's a guy that doesn't come from money. Like
Mhm.
any honest billionaire, he would say, or millionaire. He's not a billionaire. He's a
Right.
millionaire though,
Right.
but multi-millionaire. I think he sold one of his companies for tens
Right.
of millions,
That's how,
$100 million or something.
that's how you do it.
But he is so Kara Swisher's having various co-hosts rotating in and out in his absence. And on this episode, she had Mel Robbins, who wrote the Let Them Theory, a book that I had not known about, and it doesn't seem I have not read it, but of
Right.
course, that never stops me. No, but I mean, listening to it, I could get the gist. I mean,
Well, I
it's
read I read a review of it, so that's
there
that's as
there you
much as
go.
I got to it as well. But
But this is, I mean, basically, this idea is the Let Them Theory is that uh, let them is a mantra, is a cue to release the urge to control or influence others,
right, right,
instead sort of accept their choices and behavior. So you want to reorganize stuff that you can't manage, which is be others' feelings, actions, or reactions, because attempting to do so is often, Mel Robbins thinks, a waste of time. Right. So instead of trying to
right,
control external factors, the Let Them theory emphasizes focusing on what you can control: your
right.
responses, your boundaries, your decisions. And this reminds me of one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten in my life as an adult. But well, it transcends my adulthood. Given to me by the great Bill Bohr, where you said to me years ago that I've got to learn where I end and the world begins. And I think that would fit well into the Let Them theory. But right, but this is the thing, right? That
Right.
this is, you can see how this is rooted in Stoicism, with this sense of
Right. And I think, if you don't know this, I mean, there are there are segments of Stoic philosophy that are in the New Testament. I mean, the kind of Stoic handbook. I mean, it would be interesting because this is kind of a Stoicism for every person, right? And there was like these little handbooks that circulated in the ancient world that kind of had uh, how you should live, and the convergence between Hellenistic Jewish ethics and Stoicism, the ethics of Stoicism, and were really helped shaped what, particularly I think, second century, where Christianity started. Once it got a little less apocalyptic, right? Once it moved from being apocalyptic to eschatological, it it had to develop a more kind of practical ethics, right? So you get you get those ethics list of views or vices and virtues in the Deutero-Pauline stuff. So I think that's an interesting thing to look at. So the Stoicism, and it was also kind of a philosophical common ground, right? When the early apologists like Justin and others were trying to kind of points of reference with Clement of Alexandria as well, we're trying to find points of reference with um, paganism or the non-Christian thought. The uh, Stoic territory was a very you know fertile area for shared conversation.
yeah, and of course, I mean, Marcus Aurelius. People are reading the Meditations again. That's just right. I mean, a lot of people, like from Jerry Seinfeld to Tim Ferriss to, yeah, everybody. I mean, people coming, celebrities and stuff come across this all the time. And of course, that's one of the most popular Stoic texts, the Roman Emperor Marcus
Right.
Aurelius's Meditations, where we're basically, he's got core themes of control and acceptance. You don't control much. Life is impermanence. Virtue is the highest good, not money, not wealth, not status. That really, and even as emperor, I mean, not that we're, we could
Right.
say, point to the moral blind spots of Aurelius, as we all have them, and well, yeah, a lot in the ancient world. But he was often reminding himself that that his job as emperor was one of duty and service, and of course Aurelius is into mastery of the mind. Now, in this popularization, Mel Robbins is, that this is one of the things I appreciate about her is she's a popularizer, right? And she said that what she was saying in this podcast, that smart people say it's so, oh, this is so simple. She's like, well, all right, but it's not so simple for a lot of people, which is why you need
Right.
popularizers, right? Because a lot of life is not, a lot
Right.
of concepts are just not easy to get, right? And
Right.
she says, you want to move from let them to let me, right? That when you have this
Yeah.
person that has self-defeating behavior and doing all this stuff or when there are these things that are frustrating around you, that the question, let them be, in the sense of let people do their narcissistic thing or their own self-defeating behaviors or
Right.
whatever, but then it's not quietism. She says, then what is let me? No, let me, what can I do?
Right.
There are things I can do to to influence the world. And she talks a little bit about the art of influence. And she said, it was interesting in this conversation she had with Kara Swisher. She said that you have this coworker who's frustrated and unhappy and eating too many donuts or whatever, and you go for a walk every day on the break, and you're happy and they're not. I mean, if you say, "Don't eat that donut, come on the walk," what are they going to do? They're
Right.
going to say, "No." They're going to
Right.
reassert themselves usually, because what we really want is to be, to some degree, self-directed, right? I mean,
Right.
we don't.
Yeah.
So this is the great. What does St. Paul say? The law increases the trespass. When somebody
Right.
says, "Don't do it," you want to do it, or do that, you don't want to do it. Romans 7 kind of stuff. But she said, but what researchers have shown is that in these sort of situations, if you model a behavior and you're happy, a half hour later or 30 days later, eventually they're going to start taking the walk and they're going to convince themselves it was their idea.
Right.
And from some gentle modeling. And she's kind of says this is often the best thing you can do. And yeah, maybe that it is. She also says that the ABCs of this stuff. She says, the first thing if you can do is apologize if you sort of get it on somebody's nerves about their own behavior, sort of stuff, and then ask them an open-ended question, like, how do you feel about health? Like, how do you feel about how things are going,
Right.
or how do you feel about where you're at? Or she said, asking the open-ended questions, and also backing off and wait. And then her C is, which doesn't begin with C, which is kind of weird model the change. I guess the C is the
It's
change.
change. Right. Yeah.
But this sort of asking open-ended questions rather than being directive, right? Rather than telling people what to do, and backing off and sort of giving them the space to sort of, and one of her things is people generally want want different things, want flourishing, but they have to be ready for it. And very often,
Right.
they're just not ready. People are just not ready
Well, ready for
for,
life. Yeah.
yeah, for a change in their lives. And so,
A therapist friend of mine one time said, you get the relationship you're ready for. And I think that's true for a lot of things. It's one of the things that's interesting to me too about, if you think of the cosmology of the Stoics, they were fatalistic.
yeah,
I mean, and so there's an interesting thing. I mean, you could, and again, Epicureans were not what the Epicureans are today, but it's a different move, right? Because you think, okay, I really don't have much, I don't have control over even even my own fate. So one of the interesting things is that what do I do have control over, right? I have control over how I respond to the world around me.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that's it's a powerful. I mean, again, it's kind of ironic that Marcus Aurelius, he had. Well, I guess when you're powerful, you have more options, you have less options, right? Depending on how you look at it, right? And being a Stoic, I did Seneca. Wasn't Seneca? Didn't Nero have Seneca killed?
I
One of
don't know
them.
if the
I
answer
think
is
so. I
that's
think
a good
so. I
question.
think he didn't survive, but
We could ask Siri. Hey Siri, did Marcus Aurelius have
no,
Seneca killed?
no. Did Nero have
Oh,
Seneca
did
killed?
Nero have Seneca killed? Nero.
Yeah, had him killed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think at one point he was one of his advisors. So I guess it's like what Cato, noble guy, he loses the battle and takes his own life. So there's a kind of
My Cato was with the Green Hornet.
the
That's
Green
my
Hornet,
Cato.
right?
That's my
Right.
Cato.
Right. I was going to say Cincinnatus as well, but Cincinnatus didn't kill himself. He would fight, and then he'd go back to his farm, right?
Cincinnati is the model for the founders,
For
man.
the founder, but for our George Washington, our
Our
Cincinnatus.
Cincinnatus.
Well, but I do
Certainly
think.
wasn't Aaron Burr. This is one of those things. Can't you imagine Trump like just learning about Aaron Burr? Seems like a fantastic guy, Aaron Burr. I would have put him in my administration. I mean, he's almost as good as the great J.D. Vance.
Well, I think J.D. Vance has Aaron Burr potential written all over him.
That could be an insult to Aaron Burr. Right?
It could be an insult to Aaron Burr. Although, Aaron Burr pretty much deserves most of the insults he gets.
Yeah, but I don't even know that I'd want to say that, even about Aaron Burr.
Okay.
And I never forgave him for killing Hamilton.
Okay, we could be like those sports talk shows. Today's poll question. Who's worse, Aaron Burr or J.D. Vance? But at any rate, so the interesting thing though, there are points of even though there's a lot of points of contingency or points of coherence between Stoic ethics and Christian ethics, and maybe and we talked a little bit about this. One of the original sins, according to our friend Francis Spufford of Christianity, is how we deal with bodies, and some of that has to do with Stoicism, right? The Stoic Platonic. That cocktail, right? That middle Platonic Stoic cocktail had a lot to do with the way shaping Christian attitudes towards sex and the body. But I do think there are significant divergences between Christianity and Stoicism, and mostly it's around the central, the great mandate, right? That we are to love. That the center of the love God and love our neighbor. Now, again, as yourself, right? But still, there's the center of virtue being love is a uniquely Christian idea.
Yeah, well, don't you think though it's interesting that it all flows downhill from the metaphysics, right? In the sense of both have a logos, right? Both have an organizing principle. Both have something at the core of the universe that's an ordering principle. But Stoicism, the logos is impersonal. In the Gospel of John, in the first chapter, the logos is personal. The thing that does the heavy lifting and functioning in the universe, that's Stoicism. That the analog to Stoicism can become incarnate, is personal, can love, can dance, is compassionate, can get angry, even right. And that is different. Now, what if you go there and you wind up with a different approach to being in the world? If the world is ordered and structured, but by an impersonal reality, what flows from this in Stoicism is to be in harmony with the order, right? To sort of know your place, to kind of to as the young people say, to stay in your lane, right? I mean, that's going to solve a lot of heartaches.
It's not a great ethical system to fight injustice.
No, there aren't a lot of people that go from Stoic to Marxist, or liberation theologians,
or even a radical concern for the poor, right?
Yeah.
Or
maybe the Kiwanis.
No, I mean, you would do your duty, right? The Kiwanis.
Maybe the Kiwanis. Maybe an elk.
Right.
You might be an elk.
An elk.
Yeah.
Or a Rotary on a good day, right?
Rotary.
Yeah. There's a lot of ethics. No, but I think you get a sense where civic duty, I mean, it certainly would be a corrective to our current society to have a fresh infusion of Stoic virtue in the public square, or at least let's start with our local communities, right?
Right now in this public life, I'd take any virtue. Flossing, anything is great. Oh gosh, after I saw Stephen Miller, John Oliver had some Stephen Miller clips on the ICE directives and what the God, yeah, any virtue would be welcome.
Yeah. And even
did you see, by the way, the ICE? There's an ICE video. Like there's a video made in California or something about depicting the ICE workers, and the ICE in the video. The ICE are Darth Vader, and Darth Vader is killing and the people he's killing, the Republic soldiers there, they have little captions: illegals, fentanyl. You think like even a cursory glance at things, Darth Vader's the bad guy.
Right.
It's very strange,
Yeah.
very strange, Bill, that you would want to say as a law enforcement agency that you're Darth Vader.
It is interesting to you. I think that you went to. I think the and this idea of there certainly is possible. Logos is such a wonderful, rich term in the first century, and the writer of John, I think that's what a fascinating move that writer made to talk about to talk about the incarnation from the perspective of Logos. But I do think both Christianity it blows up the metaphysics of monotheism, right? I mean, some levels it creates kind of it creates messy metaphysics for monotheism. I think you're right. Christianity creates messy metaphysics for philosophical ethical systems, almost all of them, right? Because there's a sense where um, the law of Christ is a very subversive and in many ways very relative, and yet the law of love is one that it's hard to put into a consistent category because even Jesus himself says it requires different things in different circumstances.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I mean, look, I thought a lot of what Mel Robbins says. I read some book summaries after I listened to this podcast. And I thought she was great in the podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
she's a little edgy, but I mean, I guess sometimes you have to be. By the way, she lives in southern Vermont. So, she and her husband moved there years ago.
Okay,
So she's over.
I think she's my friend's neighbor.
Well,
Now
there
that
you
you
go.
said it, yeah,
You should
yeah,
say, hey, look, we did this podcast
yeah,
discussing your stuff here. Yeah,
yeah,
no, she's great. No, she's super interesting.
right.
But I mean, one of the things that I think that her work appropriating stoicism and lots of other things. By the way, in this conversation, she said 80% of Americans. This is from Harvard research. A lot of her stuff, she's quoting top researchers from Ivy League places and Institute of Health and
Who used to work there?
exactly.
They're now in France, but go
But
ahead.
according to this one stress researcher at Harvard, 80% of Americans are chronically stressed. 80%.
All right. Well, let me ask this question. So I thought that you told me
That's
that earlier.
one of us, Bill. Or both of us.
I'm not. Are you stressed?
After I heard that statistic, I am now.
I'm not, but I wonder how much percentage of that is. I've just spent got to see my first cousin and her husband, who I like both of them very much. But yeah, this political environment, they are lonely voices in Southern West Virginia. I will say that, and the news cycle is a source of stressor, particularly for my cousin's husband. I also think how many people are living from paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there was a significant part of my life I was stressed trying to figure out how to pay the bills with 4 kids. Yeah,
it happens when you're in that level. The cortisol and all that stuff is you can't. Your amygdala is your sort of your lizardy stress part of the brain, and you basically that takes over. So rational, deliberative thought, calm thinking, problem solving, all this stuff. That's out the window. So if 80%,
well, and I think what happens then too is, you'll certainly go to your general practitioner will give you a drug for that. You can now go to the, you don't have to just drink anymore. You can go to the marijuana dispensary in most states. So I think I think a lot of people are self-medicating.
that's where they have the bud tender.
Yeah,
not the bartender, the bud
tender. Right. I know. Well, I'm in one of those states.
Yeah,
so
man, Vermont. Look at the bud tenders.
Right. But I think that's fascinating. And and in many ways, well, that's the Trump administration's brought a whole bunch of new stressors, but there are so many objective reasons why we shouldn't. Even if you think a lot of people who are, now I'm not talking about the poorest of the poor, but even when I was living from paycheck to paycheck, I owned a house, my kids were in good schools, We didn't have any raids from any Vikings, or there was no Genghis Khan was not
But you know
wiping out
what
my
though?
neighborhood.
Doesn't the stress though change with your expectations? Like if
Oh, I
you
think you're right. Absolutely.
like if you don't, you know, if you're not expecting Vikings, but you're expecting these other things in life to go certain ways, which is why, it's interesting. One of the things, school shooters and stuff are almost always white males,
Right.
right? And
Well,
they're usually
most of the shooters over the last year, I mean, it just again, the most
right.
dangerous. If you want to deport dangerous people, it should be white men with guns, right?
Yeah, but what is it about like if you're white and male in this culture, usually you get the message that the world's your oyster, right? And so, like, if you're a black woman, you just the world's not your oyster.
Mhm.
You're going to face a lot of discrimination. So you tend to you tend to be ready for it, right?
Right, right, right,
Whereas privilege often leads you to this place where say, anyway, everybody's stressed, everybody's freaked
right.
out. But what's interesting is that I think part of me really resonates with this let me kind of thing, like, and what again, the separate, where's the boundary of me
Right.
and the
No.
world?
Right.
What can I have agency over and what can I not?
No.
And I think of this line from Paul Zoll in Grace and Practice, which says grace doesn't recognize boundaries. And
Mm,
there's something there that it's classic Paul Zoll, right? I mean, Paul Zoll is
right.
not known for nuance or
Right. But
at
no.
all. But there's something about that, right? I mean,
Right.
that grace sort of and here, like so much of the let them theory is boundary reality, and not that I mean, look, boundaries are important. I think
Right.
oftentimes for us, and yet sometimes the intervention, the sort of the stories we've all heard of promiscuous and persistent grace showing up that invited
Right.
somebody and broke through walls
Right.
of seemingly permanent recalcitrant, just defeatist stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I sit and wonder, like, all right, on some level, some of this stuff seems like incredibly practical and probably at certain levels could stop. I think of the sort of Trump outrage, right, where people
Right.
there's probably more constructive stuff you could do as a citizen than
Absolutely.
be outraged and stuff like
Right.
that. So I think some of the stuff is incredibly helpful on a practical level. And yet, as we've said, I mean, is when you have the Logos is not just a principle, but a person that bleeds for people and crosses boundaries himself. And does that lead to it? Is that fully compatible with a Spock-like stoicism? And even Spock couldn't do it because he
Right.
had to save the ship.
Right. But I would also say, I mean, I think perhaps the biggest boundary ever broken was the Logos became flesh.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't get bigger; it doesn't get more
That is the primary
big.
boundary. Yeah. Very good. All right, everybody, have a good week. And
We'll be back.
you fantasy football players, wait to hear from you. And good talking to you as always, Scott. And guess what? The beat goes on.